All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to radio.com on this Monday afternoon. As we take you to right up until 6:30, we'll be joined by FAN, as always, at 6 o'clock. A couple of things going on. We're getting into those doldrums where you get to those couple of weeks, although this year, I have to admit, it's been one of the more busy or active uh, post Super Bowls, or the last couple weeks, January, first couple weeks, February, been more active with the baseball scandal and all the things that have been involved with that. The free agency that's impending in football, because you have so many big name quarterbacks who are unspoken for and unsettled at the present time. Although I don't believe for one second that Tom Brady's headed to the Dallas Cowboys. I don't believe that for 1 minute. Although I do think he could find a new team. I still think it's probably less than 50-50 that he does, but it's a possibility. Let's begin on a non sports note, and we'll save the New Hampshire primary for tomorrow, which is going to be very interesting, especially for Joe Biden, who is playing his favoritism in the Democratic race basically into the ground, and you wonder what's up with him. He really is nosediving at an incredible rate, but we'll get to that tomorrow. The Oscars is front and center. I love the Oscars. I always love watching the Oscars. Always have. Always thought it was a big night. I used to love it. I used to wait for the opening. I used to like the whole thing. I used to always get a kick out of the show. I've always liked movies. I always thought the Oscars was a big part of Americana, and it has been played into a show that has no impact, no meaning. You don't look forward to it. Moving it ahead in the February schedule turned out to be an unmitigated disaster. Okay, the ratings were so bad, it is unbelievable. If you had people who you could fire, you would fire them. That's how bad the ratings are. The ratings last night were so far the lowest in Oscar history. It is unbelievable. They were down so bad. They were down over 3 million viewers from last year. And this thing has been in a nosedive for a decade. So it was the lowest rated Oscars of all time by a mile last night. All right, we're not having a host. So then you have two guys come out and both make fun of the fact that we don't have a host. And either one of them is talented enough. And if you gave them time to actually write a real show and do a real open, either one of the guys is talented enough to be the host, except we don't have a host. Okay, they don't want to host. The thing makes, Billy Crystal's out there begging to be the host, and he's on other shows talking about how he wants to be the host. This thing has been run into the ground. Plus, here's the biggest problem. Hey, Hollywood, you are in the entertainment business. This show is supposed to be entertaining. You are supposed to give America a reason to watch. They want to see pretty girls, movie stars. The ladies want to see the dresses. The guys want to see the girls. They want to see the movie stars. And then they want to see a show that makes them laugh. That's what they want, okay? That's what they expect from Hollywood. A little glamour, a little glitz, and a couple of laughs. That's it, okay? If anything else comes out of it, fine. Hollywood decided a long time ago that it was going to tell America how to live. Nobody wants to hear from Hollywood how everyone's going to live. First of all, forget all the nonsense. See, here's the problem with this darn show. They decided a long time ago they were going to turn it into a political referendum. Here's the thing. Nobody cares. People want to be entertained. They care about Hollywood and they care about movies because they go to the movies for the same reason, to be entertained so they can forget about the world for a couple hours. Isn't that why you went to the movies when you were a kid? Isn't that why you get lost in the movies anyway? It's basically just like the same thing with sports, with a toy department. Don't forget that. Nobody wants to make it so dreary and so serious that basically you take all the fun out of it. This is supposed to be an entertainment extravaganza. Instead, what it has become is a dirge. It's become one of the worst things you can watch. First of all, as soon as you go in there with your one-sided political views, okay, and I don't care what side you are on, but once you are going to put forth only one-sided political nonsense, you already have sent half the audience packing. They don't want to hear it. Even half the people who are on your side don't want to hear it in last night's forum. So even the people who agree with you don't want to hear it. Forget the people who don't agree with you. They just go, click, I'm done. What time am I going to Homeland? Okay, got it. That's where I went at 9 o'clock to Homeland. I couldn't watch anymore. Secondly, nobody tunes in for a civics lesson from an actor. Okay, you're an actor. You just won an Oscar. You're a good actor. Nobody told you have to tell me how I live and tell me what's wrong with America. I don't need you to tell me what's wrong with America. I know what's wrong with America. I don't want you to tell me about all these problems and get up there like you just lost your best friend. You just won the Academy Award. Be happy. You waited your whole life. You waited on tables. You packed your car and went to Hollywood. Whatever it did that got you there, you just got to the top of the business. You won an Academy Award. They're going to be knocking on your door. They're going to be throwing you scripts. They're going to be paying you money. You're going to get a big house in the canyon. The whole deal. Instead, you're going to tell me about everything that's wrong with the world and wrong with the country and how we're all we're either melting or we're doing this wrong and that wrong and this wrong. Shut up. Make movies. Make people laugh. Make them cry. Whatever. Make movies. Because you made movies doesn't make you any smarter about the world's problems because you make a movie or you star in a movie or you can read a script or read a line or you have a pretty face. None of it makes you any smarter than anybody else. It has gotten to the point where the show, basically, do away with it. Please, just send out, here you do. In February, send out, here are the nominations. And then you know what? We'll click on, just have Twitter click on who the winners are. You might as well. It'd be about as entertaining as the show is now. The show is unwatchable. There's nothing to watch except the next dreary actor coming up there and telling everybody what's wrong with America. We understand, okay? Brad Pitt gets up there. Now, everybody likes Brad Pitt. I mean, very few people don't like Brad Pitt. He's one of those actors, a likable guy, okay? He's handsome, he's a good actor, the whole thing. Got to get up there and start on John Bolton the first minute. I mean, you already got people click, click, click. Nobody wants to hear it. We know what the views are going to be from Hollywood. We know what Hollywood's politics are. You're not fixing the world's problems there, okay? It's not going to happen. Nothing worse than going to a concert and sitting there, and I don't care if it's right or left, okay? I don't care if it's your favorite rock star and his views are left, and he's your favorite country western star and his views are right. I don't care what it is. Nobody went there that night to have the person stop his act and give you 15 minutes on his political views. Nobody cares. Nobody wants it. They went there to be entertained. Sing your greatest hits, okay? That's it. But that's not enough anymore. And that's why last night the ratings tanked to a level where you can't even find the program. There are talented people out there who could host this program. It needs a host. You had great hosts host this program through the years. Bob Hope, Johnny Carson. Billy Crystal was really good at it. Steve Martin's a talented guy. Can make you laugh. All right, the bottom line is, you know what? There's plenty of people who can host that thing. Let them host it. Let them write jokes. And some of the jokes could be political jokes. Everyone will laugh. But it can't be this harangue for 3 hours, the same thing over and over and over again. Nobody cares. And the people who oppose your views are gone in 5 minutes. And half the other people is just so bored and tired they don't want to hear it anymore. The show stinks. It's unwatchable. It used to be one of the best nights of the year. And now it is. I was in a room last night with 5 people, and everybody wanted to change the channel. That's how bad it was. And they were right. It was that bad. And the ratings, they scream. So you're in the entertainment business, okay? Your job with this program is to promote motion pictures and the motion picture industry. That's what it's about. That is the idea of the whole thing, okay? Hey, I was a kid and I wanted to be in the movies, or I did that. That's it, okay? That's fine. That's the American dream. Hollywood actors, movie stars, that's the American dream. Just like, playing center field for the Yankees, the American dream. You know what? Becoming Brad Pitt's the American dream. Winning a leading man, a best actor Oscar, that's the American dream. People dream about that stuff. Instead, you got a show that was down 20% year to year. And in the key demographics, 18 to 49, down 31% last night. In 1 year. 31%. You think you got it covered now? You think you guys got it figured out? Soon they'll be running this thing on cable on a Saturday night. That's where the Oscars will wind up with these ratings. The ratings have gone down every year. Okay, 18 was the tank. 19 went up a little. These ratings are down from the all-time low. They're down 20%. Why? Because they've turned it into an unwatchable bunch of drivel that nobody cares about. And the reason is that these award shows, since Donald Trump got in office, have decided that the only thing that matters is attacking him and his views and his party. Leave it alone. You are killing yourself. You got it going. Listen, if people want that, all they have to do is turn on MSNBC 24 hours a day. It's there. They can find it. They can find people that kill Trump on a bunch of channels. They can also find, and the people who want can find places where they'll promote him all day and night. We know that's out there too. That's not the point here. The point here is that Hollywood has decided, because of what has gone on with this president and what's going on now with the polarization of these two parties, that they are the home office for the new left, and that they have to turn this into a 3-hour political rally. It doesn't work. And instead, you're destroying your industry at a time where there is more money being thrown into movie making than ever. If you have an ability to write a script, get in your car and head to Hollywood. There are so many places begging for quality stuff. Look how many. Hey, you got the richest man in the world there, who's a genius, who runs his company, and he's got his company in the movie business. Bezos is sitting right there, willing to buy anything you got. So's Apple, Amazon. Okay, go down the list. There's a place everywhere dying for quality stuff. If that's the best, you couldn't have a better time than to be in the movies right now. You got a chance to do anything. They'll take any script they can find. Instead, you're destroying what should be the biggest 3 hours of the year for Hollywood and turning it into just a unwatchable 3 hours of just political and social drivel, which nobody wants to hear. Don't you get it yet? I mean, what has to happen? It has to fall completely off the... I mean, maybe these numbers would make someone sit up and listen and realize maybe we have a wrong idea here. And listen, I am not making this a pro or negative anybody. I'm not saying their views aren't their rights. They are. They just don't belong in that venue. America tunes in to be entertained. They want to see glamour and glitz and have some fun and be entertained. Not be taught a civics lesson for 3 hours. I mean, Phoenix is okay, he's a good actor. His comatose acceptance speech was unbelievable. I mean, it was ridiculous. He's talking about cows and I mean, shut up and take your award and go home. Awful. And you know what? I used to like that night. I used to look forward to watching that show. I couldn't even make it to 9 o'clock last night. That's how bad it was. It's sad. It really is sad. And for no reason. All right, the NCAA put out its projections, and they've done this the last couple of years, so they give you, we're a month away from, say, Selection Sunday. We're 5 weeks away from the tournament. And these teams, they basically told you. The committee puts out the top 4 seeds in each for the 4 regions. And the teams that are one-seeded usually, since they've done this, they've hit on 3 out of 4 most years. And even admitted this year that the 4 teams had a wide margin. They do. I think the only team that has a chance, Duke is Duke, so you always take them into consideration. If they got hot and ran the table, maybe they could be the 1 seed, especially if San Diego State hit a little losing streak, because San Diego State hasn't played a tough schedule and they're undefeated. But here's the amazing thing. The balance of power in college basketball has always been, in modern times, completely east of the Mississippi River. Well, right now, and they've always had to send teams west, who's going west. Georgetown used to love to go west, the whole thing. Now, you got teams being imported from the west to the east. I mean, right now, the 4 seeds, 3 of them are west and 1 is Midwest. There's nobody from anywhere we consider, central or east. You got San Diego State, which is unbeaten. You have Gonzaga, who has become almost a fixture as a 1 seed. You have Kansas, which is most often or not a 1 or a 2 seed. And you have Baylor as a 1 seed. And most of these teams at the top could sustain a loss or 2 and still be a 1 seed. The only one on the 2 line who could jump up is Duke if they got really hot. And you have a lot of different faces this year, and a lot of the big power teams are not there. You don't have Kentucky in the top 16 right now. You have Michigan State holding on for dear life. You don't have North Carolina. You have on the 2 line Duke, Louisville, okay, West Virginia, which on a good year can be there, and Dayton, which is having a very good year and is a legitimate team. So San Diego State, Baylor, Kansas, Gonzaga. San Diego State in the east. Baylor in the south. Midwest, Kansas, and then Gonzaga in the west. On the 3 line, you have Seton Hall and Villanova, which Villanova got beat twice, got beat by Seton Hall. Seton Hall winning for the first time in forever at Villanova. Villanova losing twice last week, not playing very well. Seton Hall lost a tough game to Xavier, and then they were behind the whole game and didn't play well. That was a week ago. That was Super. It was Super Sunday, wasn't it? Super Sunday. It might have been Saturday of that weekend, not Super Sunday. It might have been Saturday. I think it was. But they come back and win there. So they have them on the 3 line. They have Villanova on the 3 line. Butler on the 4 line. Auburn, which is a dangerous team. Oregon, dangerous team. Florida State's had a very good year there on the 3 line, as is Maryland. So you have San Diego State, Duke, Maryland, Butler in the east. You have Baylor, Louisville, Seton Hall, Auburn in the south. You have Kansas State and Florida State, Michigan State in the Midwest. And then you have Gonzaga, West Virginia, Villanova, and Oregon. A lot of West, a lot of new faces. San Diego State, Dayton, Seton Hall, Florida State. Been a weird year in the Big Ten. Been a weird year in the SEC. Carolina's having a strange year. Nova's not. I mean, they've had a good year, but they're not as, not as crazy as, recent years. They're not there yet. They don't have the backcourt. They have some bigger players, but they just don't have the kind of guards that can just, completely dominate like they have in the past. So they're dangerous, but not great. Just haven't had the same exact deal going. So that's where we are, and it is a wide open, as you could tell by that, a wide open tournament. Exceedingly wide open. So that projection kind of sets things up for people to have an idea where we are as you're still a month out. You still got a whole lot of play to do, but that will pretty much be what that looks like, and pretty much on the one line. The other thing to watch is there is a ton of change coming to the NFL. I mean, a ton. Okay. You got collective bargaining negotiations. They would like to get this done. The NFL wants to expand the schedule. They want it. They want to fix preseason. They want to expand the playoffs. They want to stretch the regular season at least 1 week. They'd love two, but they'd settle for one. They want to play games outside the domestic borders every week. And they want to try to create even a more advantageous schedule where they're talking now about flexing. See, nobody's going to pay for the Monday night package again at the same rate, because the Sunday night package is the old Monday night package. The Monday night package has been selling people a bill of goods because the Monday night package is stunk. So now what they're talking about is that they want to go to a flex Monday night schedule. So you're going to be able to flex things, but think about flex teams from Sunday to Monday, which is tricky. Flexing the team in advance and changing the time, they get away with that. How about changing the team game from a Sunday to a Monday? You got a lot of expiring deals coming in the NFL from TV standpoint. And you're going to have all these new players and streaming is going to be a big part of this. But they still don't want to lose. They want the big players still in. They want the old-time players still in, okay? And there's even talk of a flexible Monday night schedule. So think about that. The idea of that. Now, that's going to be tricky, because it really does change things a lot. You're changing hotels, you're changing practice dates, you're changing travel dates, you're changing a lot of stuff on a 12-day deadline, which could be very expensive. You're changing all kinds of things. Remember, if you're changing a time, you're not changing anything of that. But if you're changing days, you're changing hotels, travel, practice, stadium usage, everything. That is extremely expensive. So that has to be taken into account. Now, the flex schedule has saved the NFL. Think about it, having bad games on Sunday night versus flexing to good games and what the good games mean late in the season. If they could do that with the Monday night, they make the schedule far more advantageous. But flexing to Monday night from Sunday, again, changes things, and it's an expense. So how that would be done exactly is going to be very interesting to listen to. But again, all these different things are on the table. And the NFL, the Players Association, which usually gets destroyed by the NFL Management Council, okay? They get destroyed. They get taken to the cleaners every time. They have, if they negotiate properly, they have a chance to get everything they want this time because the NFL needs them badly and wants them to agree to a bunch of stuff. So this is a time when the NFL can get, the Player Association can get a lot if they play their cards right. Now, this is from Jeff Wilpon, a statement regarding the negotiations with Steve Cohen and the process of the team going forward, okay? This is his quote, his statement. As spring training begins, on behalf of ownership, we would like to share more information explaining why the proposed transaction has ended. This is, of course, the Steve Cohen purchasing the majority of the team, etc. However, due to the confidentiality and non-disclosure arrangements, we are unable to do so at the present time. Believe that we will sell you any building you would like to buy, okay? They don't want to tell you anything about it. And this gives them a chance to not have to explain themselves, okay? So right now, I believe we need to focus on the future, which means we don't want to tell you what happened. We don't want to tell you how bitter it got. We don't want to tell you who screwed who. We probably tried to screw each other. We don't want to tell you about that. So we don't have to because we have a non-disclosure agreement and a confidentiality agreement. So right now, we would love to tell you all that as spring training starts. Folks, really, we wouldn't. But we, of course, don't have to. So let us tell you now what we intend to do. We would like to assure our fans that we will continue our commitment to winning in 2020 and beyond, and we'll work hard to earn and maintain everyone's confidence and trust, which might as well not even have been stated because the fan base cannot stand ownership, which we know. We'll be moving forward to find a new transaction, okay? Now, they have enlisted a investment firm that they know very well, investment bankers they know very well, who handle sports, that are very good at it. Now they will go to a conventional purchase where someone who will purchase the team will purchase the entire team, okay? We will not be giving details or updates on the timeline or process until we are prepared to make a public statement. Thank you. That's all I can say for now, which means why even bother with this statement? This statement isn't even worth the paper it's written on. It said absolutely nothing new. Zero. It did not give you even a new sentence or a new phrase. It was not even worth writing. I mean, basically, when they sat down and wrote it, they should have said, well, why even bother sending this out? There's not anything new in any of this. Zero. I mean, not even a little. We would love to tell you. No, we don't. No one believes you. We want to tell them anything. Number two, okay, both sides have been leaking everything from behind the scenes anyway to make it look like their side is right. Stevie Cohen's been leaking it through his Wall Street guys. The Mets have been leaking it through their people. So we all know that. I mean, that's a fact. All right, we both blaming the other. The commissioner stood up for the Wilpons, but he's not going to stand up for people who aren't his owners. He's going to stand up for his owners. We all know now that the deal got changed. Cohen balked, and that was it. Okay, so we know that. Doesn't matter. Now the question is what happens. We're not going to say anything until we have a new owner in place. They will go out. They will look for an owner, except now they realize A, they're going forward with selling the team. And B, it will be a conventional sale now, which means when the person has been approved, when his price has been agreed upon and the purchase has been approved by baseball, that person will take over the team. It's not going to be any more. And baseball should have outlawed that. That was a terrible job by the commissioner's office. Okay? Absolutely a ridiculous job by the commissioner's office to say, guys, what makes anybody think this kind of sale could even work? You're going to pick up 80% of the team, and you're going to decide on the fly exactly when you'll maintain power until exactly when, and we'll kind of play it by ear. That wasn't going to work. Because as soon as he gives them the 80%, he's going to want the team. So now, enough of that. Now, whether or not the Wilpons want to maintain a piece of the team or not, that's something they can negotiate. But they're not going to maintain for 10 or 20% any authority. If you do that, you're an idiot. If you're paying them billions of dollars for anywhere from, let's say, 80% of the team, and they're talking about keeping something like 10 or 20%. and you're buying 80 because you're going to buy out these minority owners now. Like Stevie Conan's got 8%. As he said, he's looking to make money on his 8% now. He had 8% of the team, which is why he was an easy owner. He already had been cleared by baseball, and he already had 8% in. So he just had to kick in the other 72% for the at a valuation of $2.6 billion, and away we went. Now the new owners got to negotiate whether he wants the Wilpons in for even a minority or not, but they're going to be in for a minority piece, so it doesn't matter. They don't have any power, and that's the way it should be. Will they find someone to buy the team in this climate, in this day and age? They absolutely will. Now, I'm not saying that they will automatically agree on a price. I'm not saying they will automatically agree on terms. How long will this take? It'll probably take all season. I would think you might hear some names by the All-Star break. I've already heard a couple of names, to be honest with you, but that doesn't mean that they're. I mean, I've actually heard a couple of names through circles in New York about people who are considering bidding, who are noted people who have the cash. And what'll happen is somebody who's got some money can always put together a group. They like one person now. Baseball likes one person in the group to have at least $500 million of real wealth, meaning that there's no quibbling with how wealthy the person is. So it's not like you're borrowing all the money and coming in here. In the past, guys used to do that. You know, Jerry Jones and Bob Kraft, they bought their teams by borrowing money. They borrowed money to buy their teams. I mean, Kraft talked about how he used to have the bankers on some of the trips early on, you know, and he had to play nice to the bankers because the bankers lent him a ton of money to buy the team from Orthwine. Remember, Orthwine, what happened, if you don't remember those days with the Pats, the commissioner, Tagliabue, asked Bill to go run that team, knowing it was going to be sold out from under him, that Orthwine was going to give them a year to find an owner, otherwise he was going to move the team. He didn't want the team in New England. And they thought that Bill would enhance the value of the franchise, and him having a multi-year contract to be the coach, him enhancing the franchise. So Kraft bought into a team. Bill was already there. Bill was already in charge, which is why as soon as they started having some success, Kraft decided he was going to meddle, and that's why they had their first issues. And I'm not saying Kraft was always wrong and Bill was always right. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that's why they meddled, because Bill was there before Kraft was there. You got to remember that. People don't realize that. Bill was there before Kraft bought the team. He was there when the team was in stewardship for a year. So Orthwine owned it, but the league was really involved because they wanted the team to remain in Foxborough. And we know what happened. But in those days, the price of the teams was such that you could borrow. Now the price of the teams is so much that you need a guy. Most of these leagues like to have a real billionaire, or really at least a guy who's close to $1 billion in real hard asset money, in real assets. Really has the money. It's not a question. The guy has that kind of wealth. So you can put together the group, but there's got to be one guy in there who's really wealthy. Like Jeter wasn't wealthy enough to buy the Marlins without having a wealthy guy involved. He didn't have that kind of wealth. So you got to have a guy that has the real, where they say, wow, there's the money guy. There's got to be a money guy in each group. So you have to have that now. You could have a front man who's putting a group together, but there's got to be a guy in the group who's got the cash. And you're talking somewhere, in the $2.5 to $3 billion range for the team, right in there, depending on all different things. But what you're selling, what you're not, how the network plays into it, SNY and everything else, and all different things. But somewhere between $2.5 and $3 billion probably for the team, probably the going rate, right around there. And do I think it will be sold? Yeah, I do. I think it will be sold before the end of the season, but probably not much before the end of the season. I would think they take their time. I would think they try to find 3 or 4 serious candidates, vet them. Like I said, the guys who are doing it have done it many times in the past, so they know what they're doing. They also have a relationship with the Wilpons anyway. And I don't think they would be staying on in the same capacity. I think this was a different thing. First of all, Fred Wilpon and Stevie Cohen had a very close relationship. Secondly, he was already an 8% owner of the team. So there was a lot of reasons why that was a different setup than this would be. So we'll see what happens. But as far as that statement he put out today, I mean, it might as well not even have bothered. There's nothing in it. Zero. We can't talk. We can't tell you anything. And we're not going to give you any details or updates. So why would you even put this out? Sorry, I can't tell you anything that happened, and I'm not going to tell you anything going forward. So, all right. So I'm listening. What you can tell me now? Welcome to spring training? Think about it. This is 10 to how many lines? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10 lines that says absolutely nothing. As spring training begins, on behalf of ownership, we would like to share more information, okay? Share more information explaining why the proposed transaction has ended. Now, explain to me in here where they explain more information to you. However, due to the confidentiality and non-disclosure agreements, we are unable to do so at the present time. That should have ended it right there. That should have been it. Instead, so right now, I believe we need to focus on the future and not in the past, which means don't worry about what happened. I can't tell you, and luckily I can't because I don't want to. And now, don't worry about that. Let's go forward. We'd like to assure our fans that we will continue our commitment to winning, and beyond that, we'll earn and maintain everyone's confidence and trust. No, you won't. You'll do exactly what you've been doing in the past, which is why the fans can't wait for you to leave. They can't stand you. We'll be moving forward to find a new transaction. Okay, that we already know. And we will not be giving any updates or any timeline or any process. Thank you. What? Why would you even bother to write? Why even bring in somebody and actually have them write this? There's nothing to it. We would like to share more information, and then they go on to share absolutely nothing. We can't tell you. We don't want to tell you. So let's move on. We're going to get an owner. We're not going to tell you anything about it. And when we have an owner, we'll let you know. Let's go Mets. Buy your season tickets. Really, 10 lines, not worth the... It's sad that a tree had to fall for this because there's not anything in there that's even worthwhile. You didn't learn one iota of one thing in that statement. Not one. And the bottom line is, hey, here's where you are if you're a Met fan. You had a chance to have a really wealthy owner. I think he would have been a pretty aggressive owner. I don't know Stevie Cohen from a hole in the wall. He's an extremely wealthy guy. He's a guy who's gone out and, has to have the most expensive art. He has to have the most expensive this, the most expensive that. So he probably would have liked to have the most expensive center fielder too, and the most expensive this and the most expensive that. So I'm sure he would have been a guy who spent a lot of money on players. I would think. I don't know that, but that would be my opinion. He would have been the richest owner in baseball, which would have been nice for the Met fans, I'm sure. But it wouldn't have insured you anything. Now, the other thing is that the Mets are not staying. So those of you who wanted them to sell the team, they are selling the team. Unlike the Dolans, unlike Jim, he's not selling the team. He's got no financial issues. The Wilpons, it's not that they have financial issues, it's that they have different factions inside the family that don't want to be involved anymore. So it's time for them to cash out. So they're cashing out. Now, if you want to say they're cashing out because they don't want Jeff to be involved in the future like some people have written and stuff like that, I don't know. You have to go ask Sal Katz if that's true. He'd be the one you could ask if that's true. Fred has kept the team for a lot of, Fred is now getting into his golden years, or way into his golden years. He has had this team for a very long time. Fred's had this team since 1980 as a co-owner. And he's had the whole team for a long time. So, I mean, he's had the team a long time. So, now he did, and I can tell you, Fred told me this not once, he told me this 50 times. Whenever I'd see him through the years, in the old days, we used to get together for lunch or dinner once in a while. We talk. He and I, he, Dog, and myself, Omar and Fred and myself, or whatever. And he'd always say, my grandkids will run this team. He always would say that. It was something he said a million times. They've decided differently. They're allowed. Maybe they didn't think the team would appreciate as much as it has. Maybe they don't find the business as fun as it used to be. Who knows what it is? Whatever it is, that's the way it is. It's his. He made a very smart investment. You know, he bought this team first with other people's money. So did George buy the Yankees that way. You know what George's cash outlay was for the New York Yankees? About $163,000. How about that? Imagine that. I mean, that's one of the greatest purchases since they purchased Manhattan for $24. I mean, think about it. He bought the Yankees and put up about $160-something thousand. I saw it outlaid once, about $160-something thousand in cash. That is and he kicked back the parking lots to Paley, and I mean, the deal was ingenious. What a great, I'm telling you, not since Manhattan had there been such a good buy. But the Wilpons made a great buy, too, because they came in early 80. I wasn't there. You know, I was still just starting out in the world of, in that time I was at CBS. I was just starting out. I remember the sale of the team, but I wasn't part of the nuts and bolts of the deal. And if I remember right, they didn't put up, he put up an option to buy 50%, but it was Doubleday's money, and I don't think he had that much cash then, but he got a right for half the team, then got half the team, and then got an option to buy the other half, and he made probably 10 times on his money, which is incredible, or more. I mean, he's got an asset now worth billions of dollars. He made a billion buy. Anybody who bought a franchise 30 years ago and kept it made a fortune. Franchises don't go down in price. They don't go down in value. Nobody loses holding a franchise, ever. Nobody ever has. So, I mean, these are smart buys. They really are. I mean, the Yankee one is just insane. But, I mean, the Met one was good, too. The Met one was like, remember, the Yankee one was 1973. CBS didn't want the team. The deal was like $9 million, but it was even less than that because they kicked back some parking lots. The Met deal, which was like 81 or 82, if I remember right off the top of my head, 81, 82, was like 21 million or 21 and change or 22 million, something like that. And think about how they've just exploded and exploded and exploded. So now they're into the billions. You know, I remember when a player got $360,000 and it was considered obscene. Obscene. Now you got players getting almost $400 million in contract. $400 million. George bought the Yankees for $9 million. You get a player now. You get an outfielder for $400 million, or a pitcher for under $400 million. He bought the Yankees for $9 million. I think times have changed. Back after this. I watched a little of the. I watched a little of the golf, more than a little of the golf on Sunday. Because, Mickelson was in there and until he imploded, which you just waited for him to do. On Saturday, he had scrambled around Pebble. And I don't like Pebble because I don't like the Pro-Am. But you love the course. And Mickelson plays great there. And he didn't have a whole lot of guys to beat. And he got to Sunday where, it was pretty much him and Taylor. Day was right there, but he played himself out of it early. So Phil's, comes to number 5, and they're both playing well. They're right there together, and Phil's got a chance to win this. And then all of a sudden, on Saturday he had been amazing scrambling because he's always got to scramble because he never hits the ball straight. So he's always got to scramble. But Saturday he was scrambled like unbelievably. I mean, if you watched it, you saw it. He put a couple in out of the trap, which is typical Phil. On Sunday, it seemed every time he had to make a scrambling shot around the green, he just could not make one. And then he had that disastrous flop on 5 that rolled off the green, and it seemed to send him in the other way. And then he just couldn't make a shot the rest of the way. And Taylor went on to a win. You felt good for a guy like that who never wins. A guy hadn't won a tournament in a long time. So for him, it was a big deal. But it just makes me, while Phil is interesting, he's 49 years old. He's got himself in good shape. He hits the ball really far for a guy who's 49 years old, except he doesn't hit it very straight. But he can scramble like a crazy man, and there's days where, around the greens he can be not only imaginative, but he can be as good as anybody's ever been. But I just don't see him consistent enough to win tournaments where he's going to put it together 4 days in a row. I just don't think it's going to happen very often. And it's too bad because you know what? You need him. He makes it exciting. He really does. Because he's fun to watch. He's just, he's different. That's why they like him so much, because he's different. He's exciting. He can make shots. And, so from that standpoint, he's still... And he's even thought of dabbling. There's been this talk of a new tour. And he's kind of said he'd be interested, which I'm sure has driven the PGA crazy. And it would be worldwide, that tour. It wouldn't be him, because people have wondered if he'd go play in the 50 and older. Once he gets 50, will he go play with the old guys? I don't think he will. I don't think he will. I don't think Tiger would. Jack did a little bit. Arnie did. That tour has really gotten hurt. They would need someone. Longa's kind of dominated it, but they would need someone like Phil to kind of pick it up. But I don't see him playing on that a lot. Maybe he play there once or twice. Maybe he go play a senior U.S. Open and win it or something like that. But I just don't see him spending a lot of time on that. I really don't. But I think he could still win a tournament as he approaches 50. I just don't think he can win a major, because I think the grueling nature of a major is being exact and being mistake-free for those 4 days, or at least most of those 4 days. And he can't do that because he sprays the ball all over the place off the tee. He just hits it everywhere. And it hits it long, but just hits it left, hits it right, hits it here, hit there. I mean, it hits just shake your head. He hits the ball so crazy in every direction. But I just don't see him being precise enough. You know how tough it is to win a major now with the competition, and also staying away from mistakes. Don't 3-putt this hole. Don't make the deadly error. Don't make the bad miss. Don't have the 2 bad holes in a row. All the little things that have to happen when you're going to win a big tournament. I just don't see him being able to do that, despite the fact he might get 5 birdies in a row, or 4 birdies and an eagle, or something like that. I just don't see him being consistent enough to do it week in and week out, or 4 days in a row as far as a major goes. So I don't think, he always talking about winning that career slam and, winning the U.S. Open, which he's, finished second on 9,000 times. But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think he's going to win another major. If he was going to win one, he'd win Augusta. Same thing, Tiger. If Tiger's going to win a major, it's going to be Augusta. Then they're made for them. And but I could see Tiger. I don't think Tiger's going to win a lot of majors. I think he could still win a major. I think Phil's reaching the point where I don't know if he could win a major again. I just don't know if there can be. I mean, he could have a couple good rounds. He had a couple good rounds this weekend, as an example. I just don't see him having 4 back-to-back good rounds in a row under that kind of scrutiny, under that kind of pressure anymore. I think it's hard to do as you approach 50. And there's little things in his game that kind of are leaky now, especially for him. It's weird because, guys lose their distance or they lose their ability to putt. He's a streaky putter to begin with. Most putters are, for the most part, except for the ones that are really good. The guys who are just wonderful putters, like, Snedeker is a really good putter, as an example. Not a great player, but a really good putter. But there are guys that are just this, they get hot and cold with their putter, and they get sometimes really cold. Or it could be a bad putter. Like if you had McIlroy and you had Dustin Johnson, and you could just get them to putt consistently well, they would win all the time. I mean, their putters let them down after they hit brilliant shot after brilliant shot so many times. I mean, their putters just let them down too often. They just don't putt well enough to get the job done on week in and week out. While Koepka, for all his ability, I know he only cares about the majors, but he will also make putts. I mean, that's the difference. He will be very good there too, from that standpoint. So this week there's a tournament that I like. I like Riviera. Always do. Because I love trying to figure out the golf tournaments week in and week out. Always do. I have fun with it. It's one of the things that I like, and there's always big payoffs and everything. Because the favorite for the tournament is going to be 8-1. If you like a guy who's the second favorite, it's going to be 10, 12-1 at the very least. Sometimes even more than that. This week, you're talking about Riviera, good field. You always have to watch Bubba Watson. Is very, very, always very dangerous here. He plays very, very well here. So he's always in the mix. You got a very good. You didn't have an incredible leaderboard last week at Pebble. You only had 2 top 10 guys there. You had Cantley and you had DJ. This week you have a lot of them. You have Woods, you have Koepka, you have Johnson, you have Spieth, you have them all there this week. I think pretty much everybody is. I don't think there's anybody not playing this week. I think everybody is in, as far as I know. I'm just looking to see. There's Phillies in. There's Cantley, there's Spieth, there's Sergio, there's Johnson, Rose. Yep. All there this week. So from that standpoint, you expect it to be there's McIlroy, he's there. Very good week. There's Day, Thomas. Very good week of golf this week. And again, I was looking for Bubba Watson. I didn't see him because he loves this tournament. I'm sure he's there. Let me see where he is. Bubba Watson. Where's Bubba Watson? Oh, there he is. Okay, he's there because he wins this a lot. He's very good on certain courses, and this is one of his courses where he plays great. So is Augusta, another one, as a matter of fact, and so is the one up here in Cromwell, Connecticut. The Travelers, another one of his courses that he loves winning at too. Those are 3 where Bubba loves to win: Riviera, Augusta, and up here in Connecticut. Those are he wins at those 3 places a lot. We'll take a break, come back at 6 o'clock on The Fan.
Any way that he can. It's Mike Francesa on The Fan. Sports Radio 66 and 101.9.
All right, Mike, you're up.
WFAN.
All right, we welcome you to the program here on The Fan a little after 6 o'clock, and also on radio.com across the country on this February evening, brought to you as always by the good folks at Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos, the tequila, brought to you by those who drink it. So they bring you this program for the half hour every single night, and we thank them for that every night, every day of the year. So Casamigos is with us. Now, I mentioned the Wilpon statement, which really said nothing. I also it's funny, I always get down to the Mets side of spring training, even if I don't go do shows at spring training, which I won't do this year because, I won't do shows there because they'll let the guys do shows there. They're doing Drive Now. They should do the shows there, so I don't want to do shows there. But I go visit. And I go more readily to the Mets side because I have a house on that side. So I have a house about 45 minutes from the Mets training facility down in the Palm Beach area. And I know that if you've ever gone there through the years, let's just say the Mets facility, while being okay, is not exactly what you would call plush. It has never been anything fancy. Now, spring training doesn't have to be fancy, but, the way I've always looked at spring training is if you've ever been down there and been through a lot of the places, a lot of them are not very, very fancy places. I mean, they're not real enormous buildings. They're not, they hold a couple thousand people. There's two exceptions, really. The place that they play down in Palm Beach is pretty nice. What the Red Sox have down at Fort Myers is really nice. And what the Yankees have is just, because they both draw so much, they have larger facilities. They have bigger areas, they have more stadium. It's more stadium. It's more like a real stadium. If you've ever been there, you know. And also the Yankees have this huge area where you can buy, merchandise. It's just vast. When you first get there, it's right there. So that's they want to sell you stuff, which is what their deal is. So Tradition Field and the whole thing in Port St. Lucie, I mean, it has grown enormously. When Dog and I first went to Port St. Lucie, there was nothing there. We would drive up. We'd stay at PJ National at that time because there was no hotels in Port St. Lucie when we would drive up to do the show. So there was nowhere to stay there. They used to call it, the players used to call it Port St. Lonesome in those days. Now, it's grown a lot. I mean, it's grown into a real city since then. In those days, there was one place in town. It was like a Chico's. I think it was a Chico's was the name of the place that had food. I think it was Chico's. I might be wrong, but I think it was. There was no hotels. There was nothing there. You'd get off 95, and you would just drive in, and the field would be there. I mean, nothing there. Now, since then, they have golf courses, and they've built up a whole, as happens there, they build, what Florida has done through the years is they have built residential communities around golf tournaments and spring training facilities. That's what they did. That's basically what they do. They build homes around them, and they build towns around around the minor league teams, about the major league teams playing there in the spring, and around golf tournaments. Like, they'd have a golf tournament, and then after a couple of years, they'd sell all the houses out around that, and they move the golf tournament, and then sell the houses around that for a couple of years. So that's how basically they've done it in Florida. And Port St. Lucie's become, that whole area has been built up. Port St. Lucie's been built up. Stewart's been built up. That whole area north of Palm Beach has really grown dramatically as Florida continues to grow dramatically. So I just see that the Mets have put $57 million into their, think about that. Not like $2 million or $1 million or, a couple of bucks. They put $57 million into their facility. I can't wait to see it. You put $57 million, it's got to be pretty nice. So I hear they got a really nice clubhouse now, which they really didn't have anything fancy. And they have a fancy dining room and the whole deal. But when they leave, they lock the door. They don't let the minor league team use it. So you're going to tell me this is only for the Mets? The rest of the year, it's shut down. So when the Mets get there now this week, and they're there, they'll be there in a couple of days, when they have games starting on the 22nd, which is, 10 days from now, 12 days from now. And then they play every day, and then they'll leave, break camp late March and come on up. So they're there for a good 5 weeks, 6 weeks overall, if you count this week. And they now put, according to what I saw, 50. If that's right, that sounds like a lot of money to put into that place. $57 million? I can't wait. I've been going to that park every year. For years, Bob Murphy, God rest his soul, used to curse they didn't have an elevator. So he's taking forever to go up the stairs there. It used to be quite a walk to get up to the top there, to do a show. They finally put an elevator in. They didn't have that for a long time. And it's never been the most, it's been fine, but it's never been like something you'd say, wow, what a heck of a building. You'd go down and look at the Red Sox place, and you'd say, this is pretty cool. You go down and look at the Yankee place, say, it's pretty nice. The Red Sox is nicer than the Yankees, but it's because it's more, it fits their motif a little more. But they're both really nice, and they both, a sizable place. The place that can hold a lot of people. Because they draw well. And the Phillies have dolled their place up in Clearwood. I went over to Clearwood a couple of years ago and did a thing over there. And they got a whole party going back on behind the left field fence. They got a whole restaurant, a bar there, and they got some stuff going on there. It's okay. I mean, I've been going down to Florida since I was a kid and seeing these places, and they used to be like, really barren back in the old days. I mean, I've been going to spring training since I was 16. So, 57 million though. I can't wait to see what they did for 57 million bucks. And then the Mets, instead of it being a good thing, they get blasted because they let it be known that they're not letting their minor leaguers use the facility. So now they get beat up for that. Only the Mets. Even when they do something nice, like put $57 million into their facility, which I'm sure means they built them a nice clubhouse, they built them a nice training facility, maybe they put a nice indoor cage in for when it rains, or they put in a nice dining area. I'm not sure exactly what they did there. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the plans yet. I mean, I can think of the place walking through it, so I can kind of figure out where everything is. But I mean, 57 sounds like a lot for a place like that. You think a couple of mil, okay, 57 million? And then what happens? All anyone cares about is that they're going to shut the door and not let the minor league team use it. What are they going to do? Ruin the carpet? I mean, they don't pay the poor kids. At least they can do is let them use the nice facilities for. I mean, what are they going to hurt? It's always one thing after another. It really is. It really is. And as we said, they put out this statement today, which I know got you everything you wanted to hear, which is basically, we want you to know as spring training begins that we can't tell you anything that happened. We have no interest in telling you anything that did happen. We don't have to tell you what happened because we have a non-disclosure agreement and a confidentiality agreement. And we want you to know we're getting past everything that happened, even though we're not going to tell you what happened. And we have a commitment to winning in 2020. And we're going to look forward to a new transaction, but we're not going to tell you anything about that either. Have a good year. That's the statement. So exactly why they decided to write it, I have no idea. Because there is not one iota of a kernel of information in the entire thing. Not one. We didn't learn anything we didn't know. They had non-disclosure, we know that. They don't intend on telling us what happened, we know that. They want to move on, we know that. We're not going to discuss anything new, and we're not going to tell you anything about the process until we have a buyer in place. So, in essence, we didn't tell you anything. We're not going to tell you anything. Don't look for anything. Have a good year. They wonder why the fans have a problem with them. Can't make it up. Back after this. What you get is guys win or ladies win and go up there and just look miserable. Thank a couple of people and then go into whatever, attack they want to go into. Which, if you're not of like view, you say, okay, see ya. Click. And if you figure that you do just a quick math on the subject, it's a 50-50 world. They appeal to 50% of the people. They don't appeal to 50% of the people. You don't want to cut your audience in half. How do you like if the Super Bowl decides to cut its audience in half based on what side of the aisle you're on? Why would you do that to your big event? Why would you want to do that to your audience? It's about your audience. You're selling something. That's the idea of that program is to promote and sell their industry. That is the premise of it, okay, is to promote and sell your industry, okay? That's it. All right? I'm going to take a couple of calls here for a minute. I know we don't often, but you know what? I've heard from a lot of people tell me that we should take a couple. So when I have a chance, I'm going to try and squeeze a couple in the back of the half hour. I know we're tight on time, and a lot of nights there's a lot going on. But when I can, I will. So jump aboard, and we'll get a couple in. Because I've heard from so many people tell me, please try to get a couple of phone calls in when you can. They like the phone calls, so I will try to get a couple in from time to time. Or most of the time, I will try to do everything I need to do in the first segment and maybe be able to squeeze a handful, like 3 or 4 or 5. It may depend on the day, Some days more if there's not anything going on. But I will try to squeeze them into the program, okay, as best I can before we say goodbye. It's a fast half hour, obviously, with the commercials. So I will do that to the best of my ability because I have heard from a lot of folks about that. Rocco in Freehold. What's up, Rocco? What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. Nice talking to you.
Yeah, what's happening?
Mike.
What's happening?
Mike, I'm a longtime Met fan, frustrated with the Wilpons. I can't wait for them to sell the team. But I just need the explanation on something regarding – so they didn't want to give Cohen the full control as he bought the team. Now that the deal is dead, now they're saying the next buyer who buys the team, they have no problems.
Well, you see, they're not selling. You see, they're opening the team. Here's the thing. They sold the team to a guy who already had an 8% stake in the team who was a friend. So it wasn't a typical sale. Now they are going about a sale in the old way of selling the team. They're opening it up to everybody. So the team will be sold in a more natural and more typical way now. So it will be sold to where I think it will be under baseball's rule where they'll say, listen, it's going to be a sale and it'll be, that's it. One sale, final, they take over their team kind of thing, where they'll be vetted. They'll agree on a price, then they'll be vetted. If they get through if they're cleared and they're vetted as a responsible owner and they clear muster and they get them cleaned and make sure that they have no scandals and no problems and whatever, then they're capable of buying the team. Then it's their team when they take over. So I think, listen, to sell the reason why that made no sense from a business standpoint, but they were friends. They were friends for a long time. But you know what happens when friends do business? Things get a little ugly, and clearly here what happened was it was not about the price of the team, because the one thing about Cohen is he doesn't care what he pays for things. He likes to pay a lot, so he doesn't care about that. He's got more money than he can count. What happened was it was a question, from what I understand, it was a question of when he would gain full control of the team. That was the issue. When would he gain full control of the team? That was open to debate, and they couldn't agree on exactly when that would be.
Do you have any idea who would buy the team?
I do not yet. I've heard a couple of names, but I don't have anything concrete yet, so I won't say anything. I don't know. Remember, you're talking about something that's going to cost somewhere in the neighborhood of between $2.5 and $3 billion. You're talking about very, very wealthy people, okay? I mean, you're talking about someone in the group, even if it's a group, someone in the group has to be worth $500 million clean. Someone's got to be able to produce that without any borrowing, anything. Has got to be worth over $500 million. So with that, you're letting a lot of people out when you're dealing with that. You're talking about someone who's very, very wealthy. So I don't know yet, but there are, and let me tell you, thanks for the call. There are a lot of guys on Wall Street. I mean, you could line up a lot of guys who run a lot of these businesses on Wall Street who have made that kind of money. So there are Wall Street, and you've seen Wall Street guys. You've seen Ballmer get involved from Microsoft with the Clippers. You have seen Tepper now in Carolina. Here's Stevie Cohen, who was one of the guys who did it as well as anybody on Wyoming. He's worth supposedly $13 billion. That's an incredible amount of money. Let you know when you hear about it, he would be the richest man in baseball at $13 million, and then you realize that Bloomberg has almost $50 billion, and you realize how wealthy Bloomberg is. I mean, it's scary how wealthy he is. Nathan in Brooklyn, what's up, Nathan?
Hey, Mike. Good afternoon.
Yeah, what's happening? What's happening?
Missed you on the air. Long time no speak. Anyway, on the Mets, you think, in my opinion, Stevie Cohen, he overbid for the Mets. Do you think there's any chance that he's going to end up buying it anyway? Like the last close said, like once the Mets are ceding control anyway. So why don't you go?
Oh, I don't know. That's a fair question, Nathan. I guess he could. Listen, could he buy them through regular channels? I guess he could. I mean, it's unlikely.
I don't see why not.
I mean, it sounds. Now, you see, the only reason I would say you ask a good question, and I can't answer that for this reason. And thanks for the call. The reason is he owns 8%. Does baseball exclude him from bidding because he owns 8%? Or is he allowed to be a bidder even though through proper channels, even though he owns 8%? I don't know. Baseball would have to clarify that for you. I don't know how they would deal with that because he already is a minority owner. So he's not outside the tent. He's inside the tent. So if they're now going to go through the process of finding people who are outside the tent, new money, I don't know how they would judge him. I don't see why he would be excluded from buying the whole thing, but he does own 8%. So he is obviously not going to have to pay full price because he would be paying himself, 8% of the team back. And he said now he was looking forward to making a profit on his 8%. I don't know what he paid for the 8% exactly. I don't know what he put up in real terms. I don't know I don't know. I have not heard the number exactly what he gave the Wilpons for the 8%. I'm not sure. Adam in Staten Island, what's up, Adam?
Hey, Mike, good talking to you.
Yeah, what's happening?
Real quick on the Oscars, and I agree it's become unwatchable, but just because you were a part of it, I just want to know what you thought. I thought that Sandler not getting nominated for an Oscar is one of the biggest snubs in more recent Oscar history. It was such a snub. Even the Zappi brothers not getting Best Director or Best Original Screenplay. I mean, I don't know if they just don't like certain people.
Listen, I'm not an expert on this, but what I can tell from the outside in is it's very difficult to get independent movies nominated. A24 made that movie. It's an independent. They're independent guys. They're a little bit. The Safdie brothers, who are great guys, are on the outside looking in a little bit right now. Even though they worked for Scorsese, I believe, a couple times. Listen, Sandler, I thought should have been nominated. I'm biased, of course, because I was in the movie. But the point was, I thought he was great in the movie. I would have thought he could have got a nomination. I knew it would have been a long shot for him to win. All right, but I thought he deserved one. A lot of people who do that professionally thought he deserved one. I think the movie being an independent is a big issue. And I think Sandler, sometimes when you're a guy who has as much success as he has making movies, because one thing he's big at is he's big at selling tickets. He sells tickets to all his movies. This movie sold tickets. That's the thing.
Oh, yeah.
I went to see this movie. I was down in Palm Beach at Christmas time. And I had a bunch of people staying with me who wanted to see the movie. So we went to the theater. We called up the theater that night. They were already sold out. The next night, it was sold out again. We had to wait 3 nights to get in, and I sat in the second row, which I hate doing because I hate looking up at the screen from the second row. We sat in the second row that night. The theater was sold out. 3 straight nights for that movie. And I mean, that's for an independent movie like that. That's pretty good. That it was sold out like that. Yeah,
he was amazing, and his energy. Like I don't know. How he that type of energy
it was an odd movie. So I know people who loved it. I know people who didn't love it, and that's the way movies are. It's not for everybody. I think the guys, the Safdies, first of all, are very talented guys. They're also a riot, which is they're just really funny guys. I mean, I got to have them on the show sometime because they're hilarious. I mean, so I will do that. And I thought Sandler was great in the movie. I really did. I thought he was in every scene. It was an incredible performance. I thought it was a great performance. I really did.
Real quick, Mike, what do you think of like a foreign film getting both Best Picture and foreign film? Like, do you think the foreign film should stay within the foreign films?
Listen. I think great point, and thanks for the call. I think that if the movie has subtitles, and I don't know if this movie Parasite has subtitles or not. I guess it does. It must, right? It was in a foreign language, so it's got to have subtitles. I think if it's got subtitles, it should be in a different category. I don't think it should be in the same category as the other American pictures. I have no problem with it getting awards. It might be very much worthy of awards. I'm sure it is. But I think a movie that has subtitles should be in a foreign film category, not in a regular category. I just think that makes sense. It's a different kind of movie. Bob joins us real quick. What's up, Bob?
Hey, Mike. Speaking of the second row, I sat in the front row for Schindler's List back in the day.
That's a classic, though. I mean, so you.
I know, but it's a 3-hour movie.
Oh yeah,
my neck was killing me.
I hate sitting up there. I mean, real quick, I got to go. So go ahead. What's on your mind?
Well, I just want to let you know, I used to live in Port St. Lucie. My understanding is the city of Port St. Lucie footed the bill for this.
Oh, they did?
Renovation.
57. Yeah. But whoever paid for it, what the heck did they do for $57 million?
Well, I'll tell you. Concessions, a new clubhouse, and bathrooms.
For 50, man, I can't wait to see it. It must be. Thanks for the call. It must be beautiful. I mean, $57 million is a lot of money for that kind of stadium. It's not like a big stadium. I mean, $57 million stunned me. I couldn't believe it. I thought that was amazing. I can't wait to see it. I'll be down there sometime in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to go over there and see it. So I always go over there, at least a couple of times a year. But I'll go over and I want to go through it. It must be beautiful. 57 mil. But why not let the minor leaguers use it? I mean, it makes no sense. The Mets, instead of this being a positive, becomes a negative against the Mets because it's like the Mets' decision. I don't know if it's the Mets' decision or not, but the Mets are getting knocked for it. Why not let the minor leaguers use the thing? Open the thing up for everybody. Let them all use it. What do you care? You're not there anyway. You're there for 6 weeks. All right, that'll do it. Steve Summers coming up. We'll see you tomorrow. I'll try to squeeze a couple calls in every night at the end of the show. Maybe we'll try and squeeze 5 in every night as much as we possibly can. Brought to you, of course, by the good folks at Casamigos Tequila. Brought to you by those who drink it. Casamigos Tequila. Go try one or try it. It's a great product. We will see you tomorrow. Have a good Monday night, everybody.